Some buildings are massive, towering over cities like giants, but not all of them stand forever. Some are brought down, either by controlled demolitions or unexpected disasters. Many of the world's tallest buildings have met dramatic ends, from iconic skyscrapers to record-breaking high-rises. Whether due to age, safety concerns, or redevelopment, their destruction is often just as breathtaking as their construction. Join us as we're diving into 20 of the tallest buildings ever demolished, uncovering the reasons behind their fall and the incredible ways they were brought down. Number 20. Mina Plaza Tower. Abu Dhabi, like the rest of the UAE, is constantly evolving, transforming its skyline with bigger and bolder projects to attract tourists, businesses, and investors. But with new developments come tough decisions. Sometimes, iconic landmarks must be sacrificed for progress. One such casualty was the Mina Plaza Towers, a structure once meant to be a prestigious commercial and residential hub in the heart of Abu Dhabi. The towers were originally designed as a four-tower complex with ambitious plans for luxury apartments, offices, and retail spaces. However, due to economic shifts and changing priorities, the project was abandoned before completion, leaving the skeletal remains of what was once envisioned as a modern marvel. Instead of letting it stand as an unfinished relic, authorities decided to bring it down. On November 27, 2020, in a breathtaking display of controlled demolition, 144 floors came crashing down in just 10 seconds. It set a Guinness World Record for the tallest building demolition using explosives. The engineering behind it was nothing short of extraordinary. Experts strategically placed 6,000 kilograms of plastic explosives and detonator cords to ensure a clean, precise collapse.
We've used explosive materials that are very stable, very safe,
minimizing dust and debris while keeping the surrounding area safe. Number 19. Ocean Tower. Ocean Tower was supposed to be a shining gem on South Padre Island, Texas, a luxurious high-rise with 151 upscale condos offering breathtaking ocean views. Developers dreamed big, expecting it to be a symbol of prestige and exclusivity. But instead of reaching for the sky, the project ended up going in the opposite direction. 2 years after construction kicked off, engineers noticed something alarming. The foundation was sinking. The once promising tower was now a ticking time bomb of potential disaster. They tried selling it off, hoping someone would take on the challenge of saving it, but no one wanted to buy a sinking skyscraper. With no other options left, the decision was made to bring it down. But demolishing the Ocean Tower wasn't as easy as pressing a button. The unpredictable coastal weather threw several curveballs. Strong winds kept delaying both the setup and the execution of the demolition. It was almost as if the tower didn't want to go down without a fight. Finally, after months of careful planning, Controlled Demolition Inc. stepped in. They strategically placed over a ton of explosives throughout the building, connecting them with more than 2 miles of detonating cord, a setup designed to ensure a perfect collapse.
Some of these would probably have 10 pounds to the cubic yard. You can't use the rule of thumb loading densities.
And when the moment finally came, Ocean Tower crumbled in spectacular fashion, reduced to rubble in just 15 seconds. Number 18. Xi'an City Building. Imagine spending years and millions of dollars constructing a massive skyscraper, only to watch it vanish in just 13 seconds. That's exactly what happened to the Xi'an City Building, a towering 118-meter structure in the heart of Xi'an, China. Built in a major tech hub, this skyscraper was supposed to be a bustling commercial center. Instead, it sat empty for years, becoming little more than a giant, lifeless shell. By 2015, officials decided enough was enough. It had to go. The demolition was nothing short of a perfectly choreographed spectacle. Bringing down a building of this size isn't just about setting off explosives, it's a science. Engineers had to calculate everything down to the millisecond to ensure the tower collapsed exactly as planned, and they nailed it. The entire structure crumbled straight down into a heap of rubble, avoiding nearby buildings like a well-rehearsed domino trick.
It was grounded in the way the demolition team wanted. The protection net around the building was completely intact.
There was a bar just 20 feet away, and it didn't even get a scratch. No shattered windows, no flying debris, no spilled drinks. Just a quiet, business-as-usual vibe for the folks inside, casually sipping their tea as a skyscraper met its dramatic end just outside. Number 17. Sunshine City, too complex. Back in 2021, the city of Kunming, the capital of China's southern Yunnan province, witnessed a jaw-dropping demolition spectacle. A total of 15 high-rise buildings were brought down in a carefully planned, controlled explosion. But one stubborn tower refused to collapse with the others and had to be taken down separately a few days later. These buildings were originally part of an ambitious residential complex called Sunshine City 2, with construction kicking off in 2011. However, the project hit a major roadblock when its developer, Kunming Shifang Company, ran out of funds. The unfinished towers were then sold to Yunxi Real Estate, but by 2013, all construction came to a standstill, leaving the massive complex abandoned for nearly a decade. Fast forward to November 2020, and another company, Yunnan Panheng Real Estate, stepped in and bought the decaying structures. After assessing the site, they discovered serious structural flaws that made the buildings unsafe, leading to the decision to demolish them and replace them with lower-rise apartment blocks.
In China's southwest, these apartment blocks are going down.
The big demolition day finally arrived on August 27, 2021. To pull it off, experts placed a staggering 4.6 metric tons of explosives across 85,000 detonation points inside the buildings. The blast was so massive that over 5,300 nearby residents had to be evacuated as a safety precaution. Number 16. Trump Plaza.
In news across America, the Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City is no more.
Back in the 1980s, the Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino wasn't just another flashy spot in Atlantic City. It was a statement, a towering symbol of Donald Trump's booming real estate empire. It screamed wealth, power, and big ambition. When its doors first swung open, Trump was at the peak of his game, making headlines as a bold and fearless businessman.
People identify with Donald Trump. He's a success story. He's rich, he's brash, he's successful.
The casino quickly became a hotspot for high rollers, celebrities, and anyone chasing a taste of luxury. But like a bad run at the blackjack table, the good times didn't last. Over the years, financial troubles started piling up, and after multiple bankruptcy filings, Trump walked away from the property in 2009. By the time the casino finally shut down in 2014, it had gone from being a high-flying success to the absolute worst-performing casino in Atlantic City. Then came 2021, and the once grand casino met a spectacularly dramatic end.
A staple of Atlantic City, New Jersey, is no longer a part of the skyline.
With the push of a button, 3,000 sticks of dynamite brought the entire building crashing down in just 20 seconds. A place that once symbolized glitz and power was reduced to nothing but dust and rubble. And in a move that felt like classic Trump, people had to pay $10 just to watch the destruction unfold. Number 15. 19 inner-city buildings. Imagine standing in the middle of a city, staring up at 19 massive buildings, knowing that in just a few seconds, they'll all be gone. That's exactly what happened in China's Hubei province when engineers pulled off one of the most jaw-dropping demolitions ever attempted. Instead of taking down just one or two buildings, they went big, clearing out a staggering 15 hectares in one go. To make this mind-blowing demolition happen, experts used an unbelievable 5 tons of explosives, carefully placed and precisely timed to bring down the structures in a perfectly controlled collapse.
Wow, look at that
Like
aerial
dominoes,
shot.
like dominoes,
Yeah,
right?
That's incredible.
Demolishing even a single high-rise is no easy feat. It takes expert planning, precise calculations, and top-tier engineering skills. But bringing down 19 buildings at the same time without causing total mayhem is a next-level genius. This high-stakes demolition was scheduled at night when the city was quieter, reducing risks and disruptions.
10 seconds was all it took for 19 buildings in central China to crumble to the ground.
And then, in just 10 seconds, an estimated 150,000 square meters of concrete, steel, and glass came crashing down in a mesmerizing chain reaction. What's even more impressive is that the entire operation was so flawlessly executed that not a single nearby structure was damaged.
The explosion didn't cause any damage to the surrounding areas. The big demolition makes way for a new business center.
Number 14. Grand Prince Hotel Akasaka. The Grand Prince Hotel Akasaka in Tokyo didn't vanish in a dramatic explosion or collapse in a cloud of dust. Instead, in 2013, it performed a slow, almost magical disappearing act, shrinking floor by floor until it was completely gone.
As this video shows, going floor by floor, crews take out the beams and supporting columns.
Tokyo doesn't have the luxury of sprawling demolition sites or reckless implosions. A conventional teardown would have caused massive dust clouds, unbearable noise, and dangerous vibrations that could have weakened nearby structures. So, engineers at Taisei Corporation came up with a revolutionary solution: the Taisei Ecological Reproduction System.
The downside to all of this, there certainly would be cheaper options when it comes to deconstructing this old building.
Instead of toppling the hotel all at once, they took it apart piece by piece, working from the top down. Every 10 days, 2 floors were carefully dismantled inside a temporary, enclosed structure that concealed the process. The top of the building was sealed off, creating a controlled environment where dust and debris were contained rather than released into the city air. Giant jacks held up the roof, lowering it bit by bit as each section was removed.
The debris is removed, then temporary jacks lower what remains.
The process reduced dust pollution by 90%, cut noise levels in half, and lowered vibrations to 1/5 of those caused by traditional demolition. But perhaps the most impressive part is the energy efficiency. The controlled deconstruction generated electricity using the weight of the materials being removed. Number 13. The Singer Building. The Singer Building, a true marvel of its time, first opened its doors to the public in 1908 at 149 Broadway in New York City. Back then, it wasn't just another skyscraper. It was the skyscraper, holding the record as the tallest building in the world upon completion. Standing at an impressive 612 feet with 47 floors, it was a shining symbol of innovation and progress during the early 20th century skyscraper boom. Designed by the renowned architect Ernest Flagg, the Singer Building combined elegance with cutting-edge engineering. Its facade was a masterpiece, blending brick, stone, and intricate terracotta detailing, all wrapped around a steel skeleton. The entrance was nothing short of breathtaking, with a grand marble-clad lobby leading to 16 state-of-the-art elevators that whisked visitors up to more than 410,000 square feet of office space. For years, the Singer Building was a beloved part of the New York skyline, admired by locals and tourists alike. But as time passed and taller, more spacious buildings rose around it, the once mighty tower began to feel small by comparison. By 1961, the Singer Corporation decided to relocate, and instead of preserving this architectural gem, it was demolished in 1968. Number 12. CPF Building.
This means the extra interest that's been paid to CPF members as part of efforts to enhance their retirement savings.
The CPF Building was more than just another high-rise in Singapore's central business district. It was a symbol of the city's rapid economic growth. Completed in 1976, this 52,000 square meter skyscraper stood at CPF Robinson Road, serving as the headquarters of the Central Provident Fund, the backbone of Singapore's social security system. For decades, it housed thousands of employees managing the retirement, healthcare, and housing savings of millions of Singaporeans.
So as such, they will earn up to 6% interest per year on their retirement balances.
However, as Singapore continued evolving into a futuristic metropolis, the building's fate was sealed. In November 2015, it was sold to Ascendus Land, now part of CapitaLand, for a jaw-dropping $550 million. By February 2017, the last tenant had moved out, and soon after, demolition crews moved in to take down the once prominent structure. Interestingly, the CPF building set a unique record. It was the largest skyscraper outside of New York City to be voluntarily demolished. Unlike many older buildings that are simply repurposed, this one was torn down to make way for something even bigger and better. In its place, Singapore planned Capita Spring, a 51-story mixed-use skyscraper soaring 280 meters into the sky, designed to incorporate lush greenery and smart technology. Number 11. Kerala Skyscrapers. In the bustling municipality of Maradu, located in the Indian state of Kerala, 4 towering skyscrapers once stood tall, offering homes to around 2,000 residents across 340 apartments. These buildings, however, became the center of a major legal and environmental controversy. Back in May 2019, India's Supreme Court made a game-changing decision. These high-rises had to be demolished because they were built too close to a sensitive lakeside area, violating strict coastal environmental laws. According to the Kerala Coastal Zone Management Authority, these structures should never have been approved in the first place. While local authorities greenlit the project, KCZMA insisted that no construction permits had been legally granted. Officials warned that the entire region was highly vulnerable to ecological damage, and allowing such massive buildings to stand would set a dangerous precedent. To make matters worse, just 2 years earlier, in 2018, Kerala had suffered one of its worst floods in a century.
A large part of Kerala is also hilly, so it's also about taking people who might be at risk in paths like these out of here.
The Supreme Court didn't hold back, stating that unchecked environmental destruction, like illegally occupying coastal zones, was a key reason behind the disaster. And so, in a dramatic turn of events, on January 11 and 12, 2020, demolition crews set off controlled explosions that reduced the skyscrapers to rubble within seconds. Number 10. Deutsche Bank Building. The Deutsche Bank Building once stood as a towering 39-story office structure at 130 Liberty Street in Manhattan, right next to the World Trade Center. Completed in 1974, it was a familiar fixture in New York's financial district, serving as a hub for banking operations for decades. But its fate took a tragic turn on September 11, 2001, when the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed. A massive wave of debris, smoke, and toxic dust engulfed the area. The force of the destruction punched gaping holes through the Deutsche Bank building's facade, leaving it structurally compromised and dangerously contaminated with hazardous materials like asbestos, lead, and human remains from the attacks.
In total, 2,977 people died during 9/11.
Originally owned by Bankers Trust, the property changed hands in 1998 when Deutsche Bank acquired the company for a whopping $10 billion. After the attacks, the building was deemed too toxic and unstable to be salvaged, turning it into an eerie, abandoned shell wrapped in black netting for years. It became an unsettling symbol of the devastation, earning nicknames like the Phantom Tower or Toxic Tower. The deconstruction process was far from straightforward. Crews had to carefully remove contaminants before dismantling the structure floor by floor. After standing abandoned for years, the building was finally torn down between 2007 and 2011. Number 9. J.L. Hudson's department store. Back in 1911, Detroit, Michigan, became home to one of the most iconic department stores in history, J.L. Hudson's. This massive retail giant wasn't just a shopping destination, it was a symbol of the city's booming economy. At a staggering 134 meters tall, it held the title of the tallest department store in the world when it first opened. Imagine floors upon floors filled with everything from high-end fashion to home goods, plus office spaces, restaurants, and even a basement cafeteria that could seat over 1,000 people. For more than 8 decades, J.L. Hudson's was the heart of Detroit's shopping scene. But as times changed and the city faced economic struggles, the once thriving store closed its doors for good. In 1998, it was time to say goodbye, but Detroit didn't just tear it down. They blew it up in one of the most dramatic demolitions ever. A crowd of 20,000 people gathered to witness the spectacle as 2,728 explosive charges turned the iconic building into rubble in just 6 seconds. The explosion was so powerful that it shattered windows in nearby abandoned buildings and even damaged the Detroit People Mover, the city's elevated train system. Number 8. MD Anderson Houston Building.
Here we are at MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, Texas.
An 18-story giant, standing tall at 1,100 Holcomb Boulevard in Houston, Texas. Built in 1975, this building was originally home to the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center's patient care and research facilities, playing a crucial role in the fight against cancer for decades. After more than 40 years of service, the building met a spectacular end in 2012 through a controlled implosion. This structure dedicated to saving lives was brought down in a matter of seconds in a carefully orchestrated demolition. Why the significant building was reduced to rubble? Because times change, and so does medical technology. With newer, state-of-the-art medical buildings rising around it, this aging structure simply couldn't compete. So, it was decided, out with the old, in with the new. But bringing down an 18-story structure in the middle of a bustling medical district isn't exactly a walk in the park. The demolition was a carefully planned operation, requiring months of preparation. Engineers had to ensure that the implosion was precise, preventing damage to nearby hospitals and research centers. When the moment finally arrived, thousands of pounds of explosives were strategically placed, and with one final countdown. In just a few seconds, the towering structure crumbled into dust, marking the end of an era. Number 7. Champlain Tower South. In the early hours of June 24, 2021, tragedy struck Miami's Surfside neighborhood when a major section of the Champlain Towers South condominium collapsed in a catastrophic failure. In mere seconds, the 12-story beachfront building crumbled, trapping residents under tons of concrete and debris. The disaster claimed 98 lives, making it one of the deadliest structural failures in United States history. What followed was a massive search and rescue operation that lasted weeks, with emergency crews from across the country working around the clock to locate survivors. Engineers quickly determined that the remaining portion of the building was too unstable to stand. Concerns grew that it could collapse at any moment, endangering both rescuers and nearby residents. On July 4th, in a carefully controlled demolition, explosives were used to bring down the remaining structure. The decision to demolish wasn't just about safety, it was also crucial to continue searching for victims buried under the rubble. The collapse raised serious concerns about building safety and maintenance, as reports surfaced that engineers had warned of structural issues years earlier. The tragedy led to widespread investigations into high-rise buildings across Florida, sparking changes in safety regulations to prevent such a disaster from happening again. For many, the sight of the building coming down was deeply emotional. Number 6. AFE Tower. The AFE Tower was once an iconic part of the Goethe University campus in Frankfurt, Germany. Standing at 116 meters, it held the title of the tallest tower ever demolished in Europe. Originally, the plan was to take it down piece by piece, but that turned out to be a slow and frustrating process. Locals weren't too happy about the prolonged demolition, so officials decided to go for a more dramatic solution, blowing it up. This bold move caught the media's attention, and when the big day arrived in 2014, an estimated 30,000 people gathered to witness the spectacle in person.
Around 10,000 people gathered to see the 116-meter-high AFE Tower being demolished.
When the countdown ended, a thunderous explosion rocked the area as the building's concrete shell collapsed first. Moments later, two carefully placed charges, one on the 5th floor and another on the 17th, caused the tower's core to split. One section toppled southward, while the other crashed to the north. In a matter of seconds, Frankfurt's skyline was forever changed. After the dust settled, the site remained vacant for a few years, much to the disappointment of Goethe University students who had hoped for something useful to replace it. Eventually, a sleek and modern skyscraper called 140 West rose in its place. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. A mighty red road tower once ruled the skyline, a towering giant of steel and concrete, but time had turned it into a ghostly shell, waiting for its final moment. One crisp morning, 100 kilograms of explosives were set in place. A deafening boom echoed through the city as the tower crumbled, falling like a defeated king. Dust clouds rose, swallowing the past in seconds. Where it once stood, new homes would rise, promising fresh beginnings. People watched in awe, some mourning, others dreaming of the future. The Red Road Tower was gone, but its story would live on, whispered in the wind that once rushed past its towering heights. Would the new buildings ever match the memories of the fallen giant? Let us have your opinions in the comment below. Number 5. The City Investing Building. The City Investing Building was a true titan of its era, a towering symbol of New York's rapid expansion in the early 20th century. Completed in 1908, this 33-story skyscraper wasn't just tall, it was massive, covering an entire city block and boasting an enormous floor area that made it one of the largest office buildings in the world at the time. It was strategically positioned in Manhattan's financial district, the beating heart of American commerce, where fortunes were made and lost every day. Designed by the renowned architect Francis Kimball, the City Investing Building reflected the bold architectural ambition of its time.
New York's early skyscrapers was the City Investing Building.
Kimball, known for blending function with elaborate design, crafted a steel-framed structure with intricate detailing, making it both a marvel of engineering and a striking addition to the city's skyline. During the early 20s, New York was engaged in a full-blown skyscraper boom, with architects and developers pushing the limits of height and scale. The City Investing Building stood among legendary structures like the Singer Building and the Metropolitan Life Tower, but even giants fall. By the late 1960s, the City Investing Building was considered outdated, overshadowed by the sleek, modern glass towers that were redefining Manhattan's skyline. In 1968, it was demolished to make way for the construction of Liberty Plaza. Number 4. Landmark Tower. The Landmark Tower in Fort Worth was once the king of the skyline, standing 380 feet tall. When it opened to the public in 1957, it wasn't just the tallest skyscraper in the city. It was a true icon. What made it stand out, though, was the massive digital clock at the top. At the time, it was the largest rotating clock in the world, a feature that made it impossible to miss. For decades, the building thrived, fully occupied and bustling with activity. But as time passed, it started to lose its appeal. By the late 1980s, its glory days were over, and it eventually sat completely abandoned, a ghostly shell of what it once was. Then, in March, year 2000, disaster struck. A powerful tornado tore through Fort Worth, leaving the already vacant tower severely damaged. After much debate, officials decided there was no saving it. In 2006, demolition crews from the Midwest Wrecking Company prepared for one of the biggest implosions in the city's history. They evacuated a whopping 15 city blocks to ensure safety. Then, with just over 360 pounds of explosives carefully placed inside the structure, they brought down the once proud Landmark Tower in a matter of seconds. Number 3. St. John General Hospital. Perched atop a hill in St. John, New Brunswick, the St. John General Hospital first opened its doors in 1931, quickly becoming a cornerstone of healthcare in the region. For over 50 years, it treated countless patients, witnessing everything from medical breakthroughs to historic world events. But as time passed, the aging facility struggled to keep up with modern healthcare demands. By the 1980s, plans were already in motion to replace it with a more advanced medical center, leading to the hospital's eventual closure. Fast forward to 1995, and the once proud structure was now an empty shell. But demolishing such a massive building wasn't going to be easy. Because the hospital was surrounded by residential neighborhoods and critical infrastructure, a highly controlled implosion was the only way to safely bring it down. Engineers carefully planned every detail, ensuring that the explosion would collapse the building inward without causing damage to the surrounding area. The demolition was executed flawlessly, and in a matter of seconds, the hospital that had stood for over 6 decades was reduced to rubble.
The old General Hospital was reduced to just a pile of rubble at a blast that lasted only 7 seconds.
Unlike the rest of the building, the dome somehow survived the implosion almost entirely intact. Recognizing its historical significance, crews carefully extracted it from the debris and gave it a second life. Number 2. The Kingdome in Seattle. When the builders of Seattle's Kingdome finished construction, they confidently claimed it was sturdy enough to stand for 1,000 years.
But now the building that helped put Seattle on the map is about to get blown to Kingdome come.
But it barely made it 24 years before meeting its dramatic end. Even though it didn't last as long as they had hoped, tearing it down was no easy feat. It was built to endure, and endure it did. Before demolition crews could even think about setting off explosives, they had a massive job ahead of them. The Kingdome wasn't just a building, it was a beloved sports arena, home to countless memories. That meant every seat, every beam, and every panel had to be carefully removed. Workers swarmed the stadium, ripping out 10,000 seats, 5,000 bleachers, miles of roofing insulation, wall panels, and anything else that could become dangerous shrapnel. It was a slow and painstaking process, but it had to be done before they could reach the structure's core and plant the explosives that would finally bring the giant to its knees. Interestingly, the Kingdome's design was inspired by ancient Roman engineering techniques, methods that had helped structures like the Colosseum stand for centuries. And true to its roots, the Kingdome held strong until the very end. When the charges finally went off, the once mighty stadium crumbled in on itself. Number 1. The Ritz-Carlton. The first ever Ritz-Carlton Hong Kong wasn't the sky-high wonder perched atop the ICC Tower that people know today. Instead, it was a lavish 5-star retreat nestled right in the heart of central Hong Kong, standing proudly on Chater Road. When it first opened its doors in August 1993, it quickly became the ultimate destination for luxury travelers, business tycoons, and A-list celebrities, bringing the legendary Ritz-Carlton experience to one of the world's most vibrant cities. One of its most celebrated gems was Zhongnanchun, a Michelin-starred restaurant renowned for its authentic Cantonese cuisine. It was a haven for food lovers, offering exquisite handcrafted dim sum, succulent roast meats, and seafood delicacies, all served in a setting reminiscent of ancient Chinese elegance. For nearly 15 years, the Ritz-Carlton stood as a symbol of prestige and refinement, drawing the world's elite through its doors. But in a city where change is constant, even icons must evolve. On January 31st, 2008, the hotel bid farewell, marking the end of an unforgettable era. By 2009, the entire structure was demolished, a surprising fate for such a celebrated landmark. What are your thoughts about the demolitions of these tallest buildings? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section below.